Today's episode is brought to you by FabFitFun, a seasonal subscription box with full-size beauty, fitness, fashion, and lifestyle products. I'm so excited the winter box is here. Use coupon code NEWSWORTHY for $10 off your first box at fabfitfun.com. Welcome to the Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. Today, the president shows his support for a bipartisan bill, and even Fox News sides with CNN. Plus, the CMAs, Uber's rewards program, and the 2018 Word of the Year. Those stories and more in less than 10 minutes. Then hang out after the news for Thing to Know Thursday. This week, we're talking about the California wildfires, what it's like for reporters who cover them, and the stories of resilience. I'm Erica Mandy. Today is Thursday, November 15th. You ready? Let's do this. It could be the most significant changes to the criminal justice system in a generation, and it now has the support of some lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, as well as the president. The New York Times reports President Trump announced his official support for a bill that would overhaul prison and sentencing laws, lowering mandatory minimum sentences for some nonviolent drug crimes. Conservative billionaires, the Koch brothers, and the left-leaning organization ACLU both support this. President Trump says it shows true bipartisanship is possible. The president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has been a big supporter of this. They're hoping the House and Senate pass the bill so Trump can sign it into law before the end of the year. Of course, not everyone is on board. For example, some see it as a threat to public safety. So stay tuned. Also of note from the White House, the Deputy National Security Advisor that clashed with the First Lady that we talked about yesterday is now out of that job. The White House says she's transitioning to a new role in the administration, but no other details. More news organizations are taking CNN's side in the lawsuit against President Trump, and this one is a bit unexpected. Even Fox News is siding with CNN, even though some of its own talent criticized the lawsuit on the air. A statement from Fox News says, quote, passes for working White House journalists should never be weaponized. Axios reports at least a dozen other news organizations are also showing support, including the Associated Press, NBC News, and the Washington Post. The White House responded at a court hearing yesterday, saying the president and White House have broad discretion over access for journalists. Remember, this is all after a heated exchange between President Trump and CNN reporter Jim Acosta during a news conference last week. The judge has not made any decisions just yet. New details about the California wildfires. At least 130 people now are still missing in Northern California, and the AP reports National Guard troops are helping with the grim search and recovery efforts. Unfortunately, the death toll will likely keep climbing. Already, at least 56 people now are reported dead from the fire that destroyed Paradise, California, and the surrounding area. And there are news stories of people who barely made it out, like a group of a dozen people who had to stand in a cold lake to survive with fire all around them. Southern California was not nearly as deadly, but still a lot of destruction, and evacuation orders in some areas are still in place. Now hundreds of people are offering up free places to stay to those affected through sites like Airbnb. Celebrity chefs are helping to feed first responders, and even the Los Angeles Lakers are joining the relief efforts. NBC News reports the NBA team is donating $100,000 to the Red Cross to help fire victims and those suffering from last week's shooting. I posted a link in today's show notes with information if you want to help. Well, there was a moment of silence for the California shooting victims during last night's Country Music Awards. The shooting happened at a country music bar. Garth Brooks said the show was dedicated to those victims. It was the second year in a row there's been a somber opening to the award show. And it was the 11th time country singers Carrie Underwood and Brad Paisley hosted the CMAs. Underwood, who is pregnant by the way, performed and won Female Vocalist of the Year. Chris Stapleton took home the most awards, including Male Vocalist and Single of the Year. Keith Urban got the top prize, though, Entertainer of the Year. Uber just launched a rewards program. Think frequent flyer miles, but for Uber rides. So what do you actually get? TechCrunch says you can earn things like $5 credits, upgrades to nicer cars, more flexible cancellations, and priority airport pickups. You earn points during 6-month periods through Uber Everything, any of its transportation or food services. And like airlines often do, there are tiers: Blue, Gold, Platinum, and Diamond. The rewards program is launching in just 9 cities to start. Then it will roll out to the rest of the U.S. in the next few months. Oh, and The Verge reports Uber's competitor, Lyft, has teased its own rewards program as well, so more expected on that one soon. A quick break now because this episode is brought to you by Swap.com, the world's largest online consignment and thrift store. Everything you find on the site is gently used, quality, hand-inspected items, and there are new items added daily. In fact, Swap.com organizes everything so it's easy to find what you need now, like holiday outfits, featured right on the homepage so you can click and start searching. Plus, Swap.com has workout and kids' clothing, all organized for you in certain sections. You'll find well-known brands like Lululemon and Nike, helping you save up to 90% off the retail price. And if something doesn't fit, there are hassle-free returns within 30 days. Swap.com is offering 35% off select items for your first order with the promo code Newsworthy. Again, just go to Swap.com, use the promo code Newsworthy, and you'll also have a chance to check out new deals listed every day on Swap.com's homepage. Now back to the news. What do you think is the best big airport in the United States? The Wall Street Journal released its annual rankings, and here are some of the results. Number 1 goes to Denver International Airport for reliability, value, and convenience. The rankings scored the 20 largest U.S. airports in 15 different categories, ranging from on-time reliability to Wi-Fi speed and even Yelp scores for the restaurants. Number 2, Orlando. 3, Phoenix. New Jersey's Newark Airport came in last at number 20. The Statue of Liberty's torch is on the move this morning, at least the original one that's been sitting in storage inside the statue's pedestal. The New York Times reports a crew will transport the torch to a museum nearby, also on Liberty Island. This original torch is made of copper and amber glass and weighs 3,600 pounds. It stands more than 16 feet tall. It was replaced, though, with a copper flame covered in 24-karat gold back in 1986. All right, the word of the year is here. It's toxic, at least according to Oxford dictionaries. Each year, Oxford's word of the year is supposed to reflect the spirit and mood of the year. The decision makers say 2018 has seen a 45% rise in the number of times toxic has been looked up on oxforddictionaries.com. And that it's been recently applied to pretty much everything, like toxic chemicals, toxic masculinity, toxic air, and even toxic politics. And that's it for the main news today, but it's now time for Thing to Know Thursday, where a different expert explains a different thing to know every Thursday after the news. This week, we're talking about the California wildfires. My guest today shares behind the scenes of covering the wildfires and some stories of the people impacted that she'll never forget. Leanne Suter is an Emmy Award-winning journalist for ABC7 Eyewitness News in the Los Angeles area. So here's my conversation with one of my former colleagues, Leanne Suter. Leanne, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking, Erica. It's good to see you again.
You guys have had just such a crazy news week and a half. It started with the election, then the mass shooting in Thousand Oaks, that's in your area, and then these fires have been burning for the last week. So first of all, how are you doing? Because I know from experience that it is mentally and physically taxing to be so close to such devastation, to be talking to the victims, and what conditions have you been facing?
I will admit it's been tough. It's a lot when you have to talk to so many people that have lost so much. So many homes have been lost in the massive fire here in Southern California. So it's heavy, but at the same time, I've seen so much resiliency and so much positivity from some of the victims. It's been amazing, but we certainly have been working a lot of hours, working around the clock. With our wildfire coverage in particular. The day it started, we literally were on the air for 24 hours and we never stopped because the fire was raging so much. And we tried to make sure that people knew where the fire was going and kind of what areas were at risk.
And I don't know if people realize this, but at least in California, journalists are allowed to pass roadblocks and go into those mandatory evacuation areas. So have you had moments where it felt really dangerous?
You certainly have moments where you really have to think about your safety. You get as close as you can to the fire to show it. We are required to go through safety training, fire safety training to be specific. So we kind of learn how to handle some of the wildfires and kind of what we should and shouldn't do. So because of that, I feel like we're pretty safe. But I will say my main rule always is If I get into a scene and the firefighters are leaving, so am I.
So what kind of conditions have you dealt with? Because I know, again, from doing it myself in the past, that you are driving over power lines, you're avoiding branches, you're, feeling the heat of the fire. What have you experienced this time around?
All of that and some extra, just in terms of we've had so many power lines down. There are lines across the roadway. We've had so many streets that we actually couldn't even get up because the power poles had burned. They'd fallen down across the roadway. There was just simply no way to pass through. In terms of the fire, there were the day that it started and as it went into the following day, that's when it was really raging. And the winds, we had Santa Ana winds, so with the strong gusts up to 40 miles per hour. There was one point where we were in a canyon, so we had a fire burning pretty much on both sides of us, and huge flame length going, the wind really pushing those flames, and that's when you really feel the heat. That's also when you run the risk of all those flying embers. It literally is raining red hot embers down on top of you. We're dressed in fire gear. We make sure we have goggles on, hats on. We play it safe, but you're right in the heat of it, literally. And that's when you really have to be on your toes and watch what's going on and really keep an eye on those firefighters because they really help keep you safe as well.
One of the stories I saw you did this week for ABC7 was about an elderly couple who lost their home but survived and were still trying to joke, but they were also sort of crying. It was a really great story. What can you tell us about them or other memorable people that you've met in the last week who have been dealing with these fires?
James and Marcella Shirk. Unbelievable. I can't even explain to you their positivity and their strength. They've been married 62 years. They lost everything they own in the fire. In fact, it happened on James's 92nd birthday. They were preparing to celebrate, and instead they ended up with devastating news that their entire property had been wiped out. But they were so positive, despite the fact that they're going to have to rebuild at this stage in life. They say they are ready for it, and they say that it really is their humor and the support of each other that's going to get them through. They were amazing. They were so incredibly resilient. And I've met so many like that, which has been so impressive. I spoke to a firefighter yesterday, a retired firefighter. He stayed behind trying to save his home. When conditions got too dangerous, he left. When he drove away, he said he knew he likely was not going to be returning to any home at all. And that was the case. And for him, it was a really tough loss. I mean, he's a firefighter. He thought he could save his home and he couldn't. Those conditions simply too dangerous. The wind's too strong. He was heartbroken, but again, just very positive and focused on the future, ready to start rebuilding. But that's going to be a very long process for all these homeowners, having to go through all of that red tape and just beginning the whole process of even cleaning up their property. There's health hazards. There's requirements as to how they clean it up because there are so many potential chemicals and health hazards that are in that debris and in that ash. This is a very long process, but they're ready. Most of the ones I spoke with said, yes, it's devastating. They lost everything they owned, but they are alive. And that's what matters most. So the fire in Southern California certainly could have been much worse. Thankfully, we haven't seen as many deaths with this fire.
And speaking of that, unfortunately, the Northern California fire, the Camp Fire as it's called, has been the deadliest fire in state history in California. I know you've been focused mostly with the fires northwest of Los Angeles, but you're also paying a little bit of attention of what's happening up north. What are you being told about the search for more people there? Because search crews are still out there looking for people that are missing.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking. I can't imagine how difficult this is. That fire burned so fast and so hot. It is very hard for them to be able to even identify these victims. We know that they're using DNA testing to try to find them, try to identify all of these victims. I spoke with a CAL FIRE spokesperson last night at a big meeting on the fire here in Southern California, and he told the crowd that in Butte County, they likely will see the death toll reach 100 people. That's unprecedented. It's absolutely heartbreaking news. But that fire burned so quickly and so fast. Those poor victims literally had nowhere to go and were overrun by the fire.
And again, you'll find links with information on how to help those impacted by the wildfires in today's show notes. That's also where you can read more about all the news we talked about today. Just go to thenewsworthy.com, click episodes, and find today's date. Thank you so much again for listening. And remember, The Newsworthy is ready for you by 4 a.m. every weekday. So we'll chat again tomorrow. Have a great day. don't forget to grab your FabFitFun winter box. I just got mine, and I have to tell you, I love it. I really am so impressed by how many quality full-size products come with it. For example, the winter box has a beautiful soft knit throw from Mark & Graham, body cream from Anthropologie, some great makeup, and so much more. Use coupon code Newsworthy for $10 off your first box at fabfitfun.com.